Hey y'all, welcome. I'm Mikey. Thank you for joining me. And this is Tell Your Friends. You're tuned in live to Glacier FM. Come on in, take a seat, get comfortable, take off your shoes, and we're going to chill for a little bit. So here we are. We're doing our interviews. We're full speed ahead. I'm going to go ahead and let my next guest introduce himself. So go ahead.
Hey, how y'all doing? I'm Aaron McLaurin. 38 years old. I'm a professional from Buffalo, New York. Originally, I currently reside down here in South Carolina.
Mm. I was in South Carolina in Orangeburg. It was tiny, but I loved the country. It was beautiful.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm getting used to it. I've been in New Jersey for like the past 8 years, so you know what I mean. This is a little bit
it's the
getting
culture
used to it.
shock, isn't it?
A little different around here, but you know it's alright.
It was for me too, but after about a month or two, I was like, okay, I can dig this. It's cool. Okay, so did you grow up with a single mother? Your both of your parents, neither?
So I grew up with both my parents. Grew up
Okay.
with both my parents. It's funny because even when you're a young man, you're still being parented, right? So, um, grew up with both my parents. Every relationship has their ups and downs. My mom passed away kind of young, at 50. I was a young professional. I was a high school teacher at that time, so I was about 25 when she passed away. But in my formative years, I had both of them kind of helping me, you know, form my thoughts and all that stuff. So.
Well, that's good because a lot of the men that I've interviewed didn't. So you're kind of one of the ones who has. That's good. I had both of my parents kind of, but my mother was on drugs and my father would have to find her. So she was kind of there, but she wasn't. So that's good that you have both of them. And so, what is your relationship status currently?
I'm currently married.
All right.
Yep, married, one kid.
All right, ladies, this one is taken too. Okay, so how do you feel about the new modern woman? Like, I'm a bad bee chasing the bag. How do you feel about that new mentality of this younger generation?
Um, you know, there's some good things about it, you know what I'm saying, but like anything else, right? Like it's gonna come some bad too, right? So you know, we live in a time now where people have to get multiple streams of income, like right. So it's very
Hmm.
expensive to raise children. It's very expensive to kind of live a comfortable lifestyle in America today. So yeah, like if you're in a relationship, 9 times out of 10, both people should be working, right? There's not a
Close
lot of
my door.
there's not a lot of jobs out there that can for one person to support a whole family. You
Yeah.
know, with that said, I think something gets missed when you're a bad bee and you're about the bag. Well, what about family? You know what I mean? Like, what about taking care of one another? You know what I'm saying? When you put that focus on just yourself and you're this and you're that, you kind of take away from we and us. So
I agree with that. Like, I'm okay with, and you're the second man who said that as well, that I feel like it's cool and it's not, that there should be a balance.
mhm.
My thing is, I'm all for modern women that, like you said, that are working and, contributing to the household, but this bad bee, looking at men like they're just a form of income, that's, I think, is the detriment. Not the fact that women want to contribute to the household and, help out, but the fact that, and a lot of us melanated women are taught that as little girls, to use what we have to get what we want from men. So I feel like that kind of messes up our view on the men in our community from the very beginning, because if we're told, if you sit it like this and you poke them up and, make sure you do this and make sure you get that, then we don't look at you guys as partners and lovers and providers. We just look at you as money.
Hmm. You're right.
So it's hard later to be able to then, create a productive and healthy relationship with a man when you've been taught all of your life that they're just money to you?
I 100% agree with that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like, the black woman is, probably, I don't know if it's a probably, it might be God's greatest creation. You know what I mean? But I think a big issue is that, all of these messages that are, coming to us, like all the messages that we're hearing are just setting us back in our behavior, not just women, but men and women together, like,
Right,
black men and women together specifically. Um,
right.
we should be a unit, not even if we're dating or if we're married, right? Like, it's about community and kind of helping one another in terms of just bringing back that positivity and working together for the future so our sons and daughters can have better. You know what I mean?
That's
So,
exactly how I feel. I agree. Like, no matter what, your son that I just saw, my children that you just saw, and all of our children, that's our future. And if we don't get ourselves together and we start planting the right seeds in our future, I don't know what our future is going to be. But I'm glad you brought that up. It's what's being put into us. What do you think about the representation of our women in the media, and how do you think? How do you feel about the way we represent ourselves?
well, that's the funny thing is, like, the media, they want to paint the picture of black women as they want to create a negative picture. I mean, the media wants to create a negative picture of black folks in general as a whole, unless they're, an athlete or something like that, really. But
Or an
so
entertainer?
so largely, I think the image that's put out there is negative. You ask people from other countries, what do they think about black people? What does the media show you? It's all negative. But
Mhm.
in actuality, there's it's a lot of us doing a lot of great things.
Right.
So if you tap into the right media sources and you tap in, to some of the right places, you'll see, there's a lot of good things that we're doing. I got a platform that's doing that. It's just kind of showing, what we're doing. Like some really positive things that black men and black women are doing. So, I don't think that the media outlets are really helping. The major ones, if you will. And the second part of your question, can you kind of repeat that again for me?
The second part is, how do you think that we are representing ourselves?
So, and kind of in that same vein, right? Like, you know, I think that, for, you look on Instagram and stuff like that, and for views, for to entertain others, I think a lot of us, a lot of, black women and black men are painting themselves in a negative light for attention, and that kind of perpetuates the stereotypes that are out there, and it for the more 25-year-olds that do that, the more 16, 15, 14, 12-year-olds, they're going to look up to that. And then they're going to, model that behavior. And so then you get into a cycle where, it just continues and continues. And matter of fact, it usually just gets worse,
That's
because
exactly
you
what
see
I said.
one thing, okay, that's can be looked as negative, or you see, women, shaking it, and all right, well, what else can I do to generate more views and more attention so it gets, more and
Like
more
one up,
risque.
everyone's trying to
Mhm.
one up the last one to get more views.
Exactly. Now this ain't nothing new. You know what I
No,
mean? Yeah, I
no.
remember it as BET Uncut. You know what I mean?
Right,
But
right.
but the difference is that wasn't as easily accessible as the stuff
And it
that's
wasn't
out there
live.
now. Yeah,
It
you
wasn't
can just.
live. It was a show. We watch, and then a
Mhm.
lot of times it came on late.
It
So
did.
if you weren't old enough, you had to try to like sneak and stay up to watch it.
Hmm.
Like social media is accessible at any time of the day, any time of the night. You can go live. It's. I think it's a gift and a curse, truthfully.
It is. It is, but and like going back to your original question, I think a lot of times for views, for attention, you know, you get a lot of black women and black men doing negative things, and you know putting themselves in a negative light. And this whole internet, you know what I mean. You might not necessarily do these things, or dance half naked in front of people if you knew your grandmama or your mama could see it, but not realizing that they can. Like
But some
anybody
of
can
them
see it.
don't care. Some
Yeah,
of them know
you're
that
right.
their mother is their friend on Facebook and they
You're right.
still twerking
You're right. So
because their mama's cool with it. That's my whole thing. One of my things I feel like is we have to first change the mentality, because if your mentality is still the same, then nothing is going to change. If as an elder, I think it's okay to twerk and I think it's okay to use men for money and I think all of that is okay, then that's what I'm going to teach my daughters.
very true.
First, the mentality of the elders, the ones teaching and planting the seeds, that needs to be changed.
Agree.
That's why
Agree.
I'm doing this podcast. That's why it's directed to women, because I feel like us women are the key to changing things. We're the first teachers. We're the ones teaching the children. All these little girls that are 6, 7, 8 years old and they twerking. Who taught them that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who
They
taught
they
them?
look they looked up to somebody older and seen it, and that
So
that
that's why I'm trying to talk to the older women. I'm trying to talk
yeah.
to the women that are teaching these children. I see little girls who can gyrate and know every song on the radio, but she can't even spell her name.
Yeah.
Our priorities are messed up, ladies. We
Yeah.
need to get ourselves together. Your
Yeah.
daughter should not be able to gyrate better than most grown women and know every song on the radio that's probably not even appropriate for her to know or be singing, but she can't spell her name. She can't put a sentence together properly.
So that just means we're failing.
Exactly. That's my whole point. Like we have to do better. So let me see. Do you think that the women of our community have a problem with accepting accountability and responsibility?
I think people as a whole, regardless of race, color, or creed, have issues taking responsibility for their own actions. Um, and until we get past that, then I don't think much is going to change, right? Everybody, a lot of times, people look to others like, well, it's their fault. Well, like I try to always, me personally, thinking like, well, what could I have done, or what could I do to change that situation, or make it better? So I don't think we're alone as black men and women with that. But I think you're right. I think that's a problem with in society as a whole. And for the people who kind of look at it through a lens where like always you know think about ways to make things better, and how you can do that, and until we preach those messages widely and those messages are heard to younger folks, then nothing's gonna change with that.
Hmm. I think a lot of the women don't take accountability and responsibility, because I do also live streaming on a platform as well, and I hear a lot of the women saying, black men are trash, and there's no good black men. But I feel like a lot of these women that were single mothers and they were angry and they were bitter and they were toxic, I feel like a lot of these men were created by women that didn't allow a man to be a father, or a man didn't stick around to be a father, and you tried to raise this little boy by yourself, and he missed out on a lot of those tools that a father needs to teach his son. Like, I'm sure you have some friends or people that you know or deal with that might have been raised by a single mother. Do you see a difference in some of the tools that you have on your tool belt versus the ones that they have, missing the father role
You know,
model?
it's very interesting because I mean, we have conversations like I have, you know, I have one friend, and he kind of talks about like things that come up, and he's just a little bit more sensitive to things than the other friends with both mothers and fathers, and we talk about it, and he's like, "Hey, that doesn't bother you? You don't feel no type of like, no, dude, what is wrong with you?" And then he kind of circled back like, "Man, maybe it's because I didn't have a dad around. I'm internalizing things, and I've
like
been
a
brought up
woman
to
would.
internalize things. Yes, exactly. How a woman would instead of how a man would, and these aren't things that it takes you kind of to step outside yourself to even realize. You know
Right,
what I mean? Like, when I first had my son, I kind of realized, man, this is terrible that women are doing this by themselves.
right.
This is not how things should be. You,
No,
you know, and even like small things, and we can get into a lot of different stuff, and talk about the emasculation of the black male and how a lot of things aren't even intentional, and things are learned behavior, just like
yes,
the way men walk and how they model things. So like I've worked as a strength and conditioning coach for about 15 years. I've worked in high school, I've worked in college, I worked in the National Football League recently, and I can look at a man, be 22, 23-year-old NFL player. I can watch the way he walked and tell you if he was raised by both parents or not.
right,
So
right. I
and
agree with you.
it's crazy to me,
And
because
also,
people
like you said,
model.
the way he reacts to things.
Hmm. They
Because I like to say, because I was raised by my father, like I said. My mother was on drugs. My father came and got me from my mother when I was 4 years old, and my father raised me by himself until he passed when I was 25. So I like to say, because I was raised by my father, I don't think the same as other women. Like, we don't react to things the same because I was raised by a man. I feel like men react to things more logically. Men, like in a relationship or in a household, men bring structure. Men are a different aspect of the puzzle. And so
exactly.
wasn't raised by a woman. So I when I look at situations and I pick through the things, I look at it and I pick through it differently than most women do because you were raised by a woman and you
Hmm.
tackle different things, certain things differently than I do. So I would like to think the same thing goes for a young man raised by a woman. How do you learn the things that a man is supposed to impart in you if there's no man around? And then as a woman, if you don't have that man around for whatever reason it is, because a lot of you women don't have a father around because you're spiteful and you're angry at that man and you're making your children suffer. But for whatever reason it is that that man isn't around, that little boy and those little girls, because a man teaches his daughter and his sons things that you can't, they still need a positive male role model. You
Yeah.
can't just deprive them of that divine masculine that they need in their life because whatever decisions you made weren't the greatest.
See, and kind of going back, to what we were talking about earlier, right? Like, it's not needing help is is okay. Like the whole bad B mentality. Yeah,
Independent,
I'm raising my
active.
kids. I'm doing like, well, you're not supposed to do that by yourself. You're not supposed
Exactly.
to raise kids by yourself, and you don't get extra points for doing so. What you do get extra points to is asking for help and getting the proper resources to give the kids what they need, because that
Yes.
bad B mentality is not about you. It's about these
No.
kids.
Right.
So with that being said, I think people need to take a look into the mirror and see, like, all right, and is it even possible for me, one person, to give a child everything that they need, whether it be a little boy or a little girl? And it's not. It's
It's
just
not.
not. You
It's
need
not.
balance. So
It's not. You have to have. I try to tell women all the time, what makes you think if there's no possible way that you can make a baby by yourself? Okay. Whether you go to the sperm bank and some man provided his sperm, however you do it, a sperm has to be involved. So if you cannot have a baby by yourself, why do you think you can raise one by yourself?
Exactly. I 100% agree.
I don't get it. And why do you think that like it drives me crazy, these women that are like, I'm mommy and daddy, happy Father's Day to me. You'll never be a father, sis. Never.
Yeah.
You'll never be a father. You cannot be a father. There are certain things that that father teaches his children that you never will be able to teach them because you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know. And for our community, as a melanated woman, and you're raising young men to be kings, you don't know anything about being a man. Most of all, you don't know anything about being a melanated man, operating in a world that's against him, operating in a world where everybody says you're less than, operating in a world where they're getting struck down in alarming rates by the police, and they got to fight with each other. You don't know how to teach a young man how to operate in that world. Only another melanated man can teach him that. So
Yeah.
why are you robbing your son of those tools that he needs, and then you're forcing him to have to go learn them somewhere else? Most of the time, they learn them on the streets, and they learn the wrong lessons.
Yeah.
And now you're wondering why you have this troubled teen about to be an adult, and you can't deal with them. You can't do anything with them.
You're right. I mean, we're misguided as a people in a lot of ways, and we emphasizing family, you know, and helping each other out might be the only way for us to really progress through this.
Now I know you said you don't have that much time, so I'm gonna finish it up with this question, and then I'll let you promote anything that you'd like to promote that you have
Sure.
going on. So can you give at least one solution to at least one of the issues between the women and the men of our community?
I think that probably the most kind of simple thing is to just dialogue. Have conversations and listen to conversations like this. I think communication is more important than anything in any relationship. So I really think that both men and women, if they want better for us as a whole, and they want better relationships with each other, and they want better for their sons and their daughters, is to just really like listen, and have conversations. It doesn't have to be with anybody who they're romantic with, but of members of the opposite sex, and ask how they can be better. You know what I
Right.
mean? Ask, hey, hey, you know what I mean, or hey, auntie, like, what are some things? This is the
Hey
thing,
sis.
issues that I'm having. What are some things that I can do better? And listening to these conversations, and once we start talking to each other and figure out the things that we need to help ourselves so we can help our kids, you know what I mean, then I think then we'll get somewhere, but only
I
by
totally
talking,
agree.
communicating, and sharing. Can we kind of be better, if you will.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree. So like I said, I know you don't have that much time, ladies. Y'all hear his baby in the background. He's on daddy duty right now.
Yeah.
So he said his time was limited. So we got to let him get back to his
Yep.
baby in the
Yep.
background.
And,
So
and I appreciate you having me so much. I have a brand. It's called New Regular Lifestyle. It's a clothing line. This is one of my shirts I got. This is kind of what we believe at New Regular Lifestyle, and kind of in the same vein of this talk. Um, our brand is really about promoting the idea that you don't need to just have one stream of income, right? You can have a side hustle, and we need to support one another. So if you log on to newregularlifestyle.com, every 15 days there's a different entrepreneur or small business owner directly on the website telling you their story. So I have some coming up soon. I have this wonderful young woman out of Buffalo, New York, who's a mental health expert, and she's going to talk about her story of starting a business and how she's helping people right now. I got uh, Dr. Lightfoot former former corp former engineer, and right now he has a tutoring service out of Detroit, just telling how he's taking these resources from corporate America to kind of help the youth. So it's things like that, you know what I mean, that we have to do, so people can see, oh man, there's people like me doing stuff that's
Right.
dope,
I love what
so
you're doing.
that's what I'm trying to do with my brand, and what you're doing is awesome. Just having
Thank
these
you.
conversations, to try to help each other and help one another. So check me out too, newregularlifestyle.com. You can follow on IG as well, new regular underscore lifestyle. Subscribe to the website, follow. And I think it's important that conversations like this continue so we can better serve our people.
We're gonna keep it going. I know y'all probably feel like I feel we didn't get enough time with this brother. So I'm definitely going to get with him on the outside of this, and we're gonna try to plan another, time so we can get him back on and we can have more conversation with him. Because I don't feel like
Definitely,
we had enough conversation. I
definitely.
really enjoyed you. I know you got to get to the baby. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciated you and I appreciate your time. I'm grateful for you being here. Thank you guys for joining me. We're live on Glacier FM. You can find me on Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. You can find the live interview where you can see the video. You can find that on YouTube. It's Tell Your Friends, exclamation, with Mikey, Myche. Again, thank you so much for joining me.
All
Um,
right,
y'all have a good time and come on back and join us for the next interview.
all right. Thank you.